The most important thing you can do for yourself is learn about the nervous system. You will view the world through the lens of your nervous system. So depending on what state, because there are different states and they go through different cycles, depending on what state you're in, is how you view the world. And I would go as far as to say that is the way you experience relationships, that's how much money you can make, that's how much joy and freedom you feel is all delineated through the state of your nervous system. In this video, I'm going to break down a little bit about the nervous system and also give you a little practice that you can do to help regulate your nervous system, because at the end of the day, that's the most important thing. If we understand that everything is just energy, your energy is interacting with all the energy in the universe, then shifting your state actually becomes the most important thing that you can do. And that really means shifting your nervous system. So we're going to start with the basics. I'm going to keep it as simple as I can, and I'm going to start with the polyvagal theory. So think of your nervous system as a system that adjusts to the environment and to stimuli. What is the function of the body is survival, and so the body is always looking out for perceived threats. This is why negative comments bother us so much. This is why people who might harm us, we have reactions to, because we're looking for threats and we're looking to feel safe. And so when your nervous system is in different states, it's trying to do what it needs to survive and to feel safe. And this is very important to understand because it helps make these experiences, moments, emotions less personal and something that you can really understand and actually begin to work with, because you're working with yourself. You are your nervous system. And unless you shift these things, it doesn't really matter what you do or where you go, you're taking that state with you. So to start, we start with the ventral vagal. So ventral vagal would be like parasympathetic state. Ventral vagal is when you're feeling safe and secure. This is where your body will feel warm, you'll feel open, you'll feel relaxed, your jaw is relaxed, there's no tension in your shoulders, there's no tension in your chest, your body posture is an open one. This is where you'll experience emotions like curiosity, like joy, wonder, compassion, play, a groundedness to your energy. And this is where your mind is very clear, it's flexible, receptive, and creative. And so people who want to get into these different states have to understand that it requires a shifting of the nervous system. If you're very stressed and fearful, you can't just go and be joyful. You can't just go and be creative. You can't just go and be curious about life. You have to shift the state. So this is what we would call secure attachment. If you want to understand the attachment styles, I definitely recommend going and studying those. Really will change your life, especially if you're struggling with relationships. So the ventral vagal state is when we feel the most alive, most secure, most safe. This is really where we want to be. Now, the next states that I'm going to describe, they're not bad or wrong. They are just different states, and we often will go in and out of different states, and that's perfectly okay. So the next state is the sympathetic state. This is the mobilization or the stress, fight and flight. I'm sure you've heard that expression before. This is where we are activated, we are very alert, we're very stimulated. This is where you will experience tension. Maybe your shoulders are picking up, maybe there's tension in your jaw. This is where your breath rate starts to increase. This is usually where you feel anxiety, urgency, irritation, but also ambition. The mind tends to be more future-orientated, scanning for threat, and in a problem-solving state. So again, the fight and flight, the sympathetic state is not bad or wrong. It's there for your survival. It's important. When it becomes a problem is when it becomes chronic. So it's kind of a doing energy, and when you're stuck in this doing energy, this is where you fall into like the hustling, the overthinking, the scarcity, the fear-based decision making. I must do something now or else. That state is not an abundant state. It is not an expansive state. It is not an open state. What happens to most people as they go through their day, if you have healthy attachments and understanding, you'll be in a ventral vagal state, in a secure attachment. You'll get activated, you'll go into sympathetic state, but then you'll come back into. So it's okay to get activated, it's okay to be sympathetic, but you have to recover from that. You have to do the things necessary to bring yourself back into peace. And I'm going to explain what those things are a bit later. But last point is the last state, which is dorsal vagal. This is what we would call the shutting down or the collapsing. So you might think of like freeze, fight, or fawn. This is the freeze or fawn response, where like everything just shuts down. Overwhelmed, depleted, exhausted. Your body feels heavy, it feels flat, it feels dead. Low energy, even cold. This is the emotions that you feel are like hopelessness, helplessness, numbness, resignation, apathy. Your mind is in this extreme state of avoidance. There is a fogginess, there is a what's the point kind of energy about you. And so each of us have experienced this in some way at some time. Maybe some of us experience this a lot of the time. Maybe you're watching this now. And it's okay, because this is a self-protection state. It's not really who you are, but this is the problem, because you view the world, which includes yourself. Any way you see the world is how you see yourself. It's just a big mirror. So you view yourself and you view the world through the lens of your nervous system, which means when you're in the state of dorsal vagal shutdown, those feelings feel so true. You feel like, I'm hopeless, I'm useless, what's the point? I hate everything, I hate everyone. That's usually what mine goes to when I'm in that state. So this is where the level of stress has exceeded your capacity. Again, we're removing a judgment. It's not wrong or bad that this has happened. This is so key to understand, because the shame we place on ourselves when we're in sympathetic, when we're in dorsal vagal shutdown, that's keeping us in that state. And learning to accept that this is how you're feeling and being at peace with it is the quickest and the first way to start to move through it. So in the shutdown state, your body has really just chosen conservation over mobilization. It's chosen safety over everything else. It feels like there's no perceived way out. If we are healthy, we will move between these states pretty easily, and that's okay. It's meant to be fluid, it's meant to be cycles. I've experienced all of these states in a single day, in a single hour, and that's okay. But the problem arises when we remain in one state for too long. So when we get stuck in the sympathetic state, that flight, that doing, this is often we go into burnout. So if you're someone in burnout, I can guarantee you're stuck in sympathetic state all the time. Now, when you get stuck in the dorsal vagal state, that's when you go into depression, because what's the point? That's what depression ultimately is saying all the time. Like, what's the point? There's no point. Another problem arises when we begin to bypass these signals instead of listening to them, because that's what they are. They are signals. And so when you're bypassing how you're really feeling, I'm fine, I don't need help, oh, shut up, leave me alone, whatever. You're not really listening to the body, and you have a relationship with your body, and if you don't listen in a relationship, your relationship's not going to last. Regulation is really returning to ventral vagal again and again and again and again. That's what regulation is. You might need to do regulation multiple times a day, every day, all the time. And, welcome to being a human being. It's not easy out there. It's difficult, and, problems can be really challenging. Like I said at the beginning, I would say that your nervous system state includes how money affects your life. And this is because when you're in ventral vagal state, you're in a state of openness. And a state of openness is a state of abundance, because you are your own abundance. You don't create abundance in your life. You remember that you are abundant, and you allow that to come out more in your life. Most people are blocking their abundance by being in a ventral vagal state, shutting down, by having too many negative self-beliefs or low self-worth. You block yourself from all the abundance in your life by viewing life the way that you're viewing it. A sympathetic state is usually about scarcity or security. I'm not safe. What am I going to do for money? What if I quit my job, and what's coming next? I can't let go of this income. That's all a scarcity state. When you're in that state, it feels extremely real. And that's really the work, is to start to let yourself trust in these other states and allowing yourself to regulate and go into ventral vagal and then you can access more energy, you can access more opportunities. And then a lot of people go into dorsal vagal, and that's when they're complete avoidance, procrastinate, there's shame around money. When you make a decision in ventral vagal, you are making a decision in abundance. When you make a decision in sympathetic state, you're making a decision out of urgency or scarcity. When you make a decision out of ventral vagal, you're making a decision out of fear. And that is why the state of your nervous system affects the amount of money that you can make, that you can hold on to, that you have access to, because you view the world and you interact with the world based on your nervous system state. This is so important to understand for relationships, whether you have a relationship with your children, with your partner, with your parents, with your friends, it doesn't matter, because this is so important. Ventral vagal is when you're going to feel empathy. I feel what you're feeling, and I'm here with you, and I'm here for you. This is where you will attune to your emotions. You'll attune to your partner's emotions. You'll attune to your children's emotions. And this is what we seek all the time as humans. This is where we will start to feel safe in ourselves. And when you feel safe in yourself, other people feel safe around you. When you're in a sympathetic state, this is when you're trying to control everything, because your fear, your scarcity, like, well, if I just make sure that they don't do these things, or if I just make sure that this person pays. And you're also very reactive. When you're in a relationship with someone and they react to everything that you do, their nervous system is in a sympathetic state. They're not regulated. They can't really control what's happening. And this is also when people are very defensive. I used to be like this. I used to be very defensive all the time because I was always in a sympathetic state and I didn't understand it. And it was only until I did a lot of work on myself that I started to understand, like, you don't need to be defensive, because like, you're safe now. You don't have to fight all the time. Dorsal vagal, this is if you've ever been with someone, they're completely shut down. There's no emotion. They've completely withdrawn, and this is when their body is overwhelmed. They've exceeded their capacity for what's happening, for their emotions. Because, if everything's energy, emotional energy is huge energy. So whatever emotions you're experiencing is huge, and it's going to affect your life. Think of anger, think of grief, think of, all of these different emotions, how it takes over everything. So it would stand to reason that if you have those emotions unexpressed within your body, because that's where they live, then think of how that's impacting your life. And a lot of the work I do with clients is helping them connect to those emotions that they have not experienced their whole life, and allow them in a safe, loving environment to experience them, to go through them. And every time that happens, their life shifts dramatically. It's happened to me a lot of times. And the reason I can do this for other people is because I myself have gone to those emotions. I've experienced incredible amounts of loneliness, of sadness, of grief, of anger, to the point it feels like your body's going to break because you're so angry. I've gone down those paths many times and been with those emotions, because a lot of my life I was emotionally numb. The other part of this is your mindset and identity, and we understand that how you view yourself, how your mindset is how you experience the world. Mindset is super important. Perception delineates experience. Perception of reality is your reality. If somebody comes into the room and says your mother's been in a terrible car accident, your whole psychology and physiology are going to shift. Your digestion's going to shut down, your pupils are going to dilate, your blood vessels are going to constrict. But then 5 minutes later, someone comes into the room and they say, I'm very sorry, but it wasn't your mother, it was actually a completely different car. Again, huge sense of relief. Your whole body's going to change. Nothing happened, but your perception of what is happening. That's why perception is so important. And again, it's delineated by the state of your nervous system. The ventral vagal, the secure attachment, the parasympathetic state says, I am enough, I am safe, I am secure, I am abundant, I can respond. The sympathetic state is, I must prove my worth, I am not secure, I need to fix things. And the dorsal vagal state says, I can't, I'm done, I'm finished. What's the point? So mindset doesn't change your state. Your state changes your mindset, which is why, again, nervous system regulation is so critical if you want a happy life, a healthy life, a loving life, a financially abundant life. What to do when you're dysregulated. Now, Depending on your type of dysregulation, it's going to require slightly different things. But there are some general rules of thumb that I will cover here. And what I mean by the first statement is that when you're angry, your regulation might look different to when you're sad, which will look different to when you're overwhelmed, etc. So the most important thing is to recognize when you get dysregulated. If you can do this, you are already a huge way there. And that's why this information is so important, and I'm making a video on it, because if you're able to recognize the state that you're in, you're able to do something about it. Most people don't know that they're dysregulated, don't even know that dysregulation is a thing. They don't understand why it's so important, hence why we're here. And again, this is the main work that I'm doing with all of my clients all of the time, is exactly this. The first things to understand is that, number one, stress is not the problem. Unprocessed stress is the problem. Number two, the body reflects unmet needs. The symptoms are always the signals, not the enemy. Grounding precedes healing. Whether you're talking about redox, the abundance of negatively charged electrons within the body, you're going to have to connect to the earth. If you have a body of water near you, like an ocean or a river or waterfall, that's a great way to ground the body. If you just have grass or dirt, that's also really good. Just get your feet outside. That's going to be a huge way to start not only healing the body, but also regulating the body, because you only have one stress response. So it doesn't matter if you're fighting with your wife, you've got an email saying you're fired from your job, or there's someone trying to break into your house with a gun. The same stress response is turned on. And that means you cannot heal in that state. So grounding is healing. The other thing is rhythm restores order, and everything in your body is in rhythm. There's seasons, there's cycles of the ocean, of the tide, of nature, of the wind, of currents, everything, and it's the same within your body. The circadian rhythm, sunlight comes in, clears away the melatonin, produces cortisol, the stress hormone. You wake up at 12 o'clock of the day, that's when cortisol peaks, hopefully, unless you're doing a lot of stressful things, overtraining, overeating, drinking too much caffeine, fighting with people, watching too much social media. If you don't regulate your cortisol, it stays up and then you can't sleep, because cortisol is a melatonin suppressant, so it suppresses your ability to fall asleep. But if you're regulated and healthy, cortisol will start to drop down at 12 and melatonin will start to produce, and then you have the opposite and you can fall asleep. So it's a natural rhythm. So when you restore rhythms to the body, I have videos that talk about this if you're interested. Otherwise, I am a holistic health coach that coaches people on exactly this. This is why sleeping is so important, fixing your circadian rhythm so you can get good sleep. Your nutrition is critical. You're not eating foods that are stressful or hyperstimulating, or actually changing the brain chemistry, because that's what a lot of modern processed food does. Breathing. I mean, the first video I ever made was about breathing. I've been talking about breathing for so many years now, but how you breathe is impacting everything so dramatically. I have lots of videos on breathing too. Really, rhythm regulates your psyche. It's very difficult to be regulated if you're very underslept, if you're eating toxic foods, if you're hyperventilating because you're breathing so fast and you're breathing so shallow. So those are things that are very important and kind of basics that you can do. And now I'm going to teach you a short practice that you can do to regulate yourself when you feel yourself getting dysregulated. And what you're going to do, just take a regular breath in and sigh it out your mouth. And then really feel your feet connected to the ground. Feel your feet touching the ground. Really feel the parts of your body that are in contact with the parts of the floor and the chair that are supporting you. And just that practice alone will already start to drop your energy down. But take another nice deep breath in and sigh it out the mouth. Now I want you to slightly open your eyes, maybe half open, and just look down at the ground by your feet. And in your mind, quietly, notice 3 things down there. Whatever they are, doesn't matter, just notice 3 things. Now you're going to turn your head over your left shoulder. And again, just simply notice 3 things you see down on your left. 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 3 Now turn your head over your right shoulder, and again simply notice 3 things down over your right shoulder. Now bring your head back to neutral. Just breathe in through the nose. Close your eyes, exhale out your mouth, and consciously relax your eyelids. Now I want you to focus on your right thumb. Just notice your right thumb wherever it is. See if you can feel any sensations around your right thumb. And I want you to start to make your right thumb tingle with sensation. And now notice your right fingers, index, middle, pinky, ring, and move that tingling sensation into your right fingers. Now notice your left thumb, and begin to make your left thumb tingle with sensation. And notice your left fingers, index, middle, ring, pinky, and move that tingling sensation into your left fingers. Now notice your right big toe. Notice your right little toes. Second toe, third toe, fourth toe, fifth toe. Now notice your left big toe. Notice your left little toes. Second, third, fourth, fifth. Now bring your awareness to the top of your head. Notice the sensations. Maybe you can feel the energy there. And just consciously relax the top of your head. And bring your awareness down to your chest. Notice the energy, the sensations, the temperature, the pressure on your chest. And just soften that area in your mind with your awareness, with your energy. And with your focus there, I want you to ask your heart if it has a message for you. And then in your mind, say thank you to your heart. Take a deep breath in through the nose and sigh it out your mouth. And then you can gently open your eyes and just notice how that small practice has brought so much more spaciousness, so much more openness, so much more calm, peace, clarity. All of these states are already within you, and regulating yourself allows them to emerge. Those other states are states that you've moved into, and you just need to return to ventral vagal, secure attachment, parasympathetic. And this is really a simple, beautiful practice that you can do at any time for yourself. You can watch the video again and from this point if you need to. But I would love to hear your own response, your own feelings, your own experience from this, what you thought of everything that I shared, what you experienced from this practice. And I wish you a beautiful, blessed, and regulated day. I'll see you soon.